Okay, we are live. Victoria Mui.
Good morning.
On. Okay, great. Okay, we are live. Sorry, it got doubled. Okay, so that being said, right now, Victoria, she doesn't have her camera on for some reason. We try to figure it out, and it's just not working. So, but we do have her on, and you'll see her. Victoria Mui.
Yes, here I am.
So she is on. And if anybody in the YouTube chat can say, hey, I can hear you, just because otherwise I don't know how I would know, then it would be great. Okay. I do think it's in speaker mode, so that's perfect. All right. Victoria, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, ready to go.
Okay. All right, so getting started, the female Asian hustlers. We wanted to today talk about just the quarantine and things that are happening. We can't say the word, the C virus, but you know what we're talking about. I have Victoria Mui on. For those of you who don't already know, she is, and I have her book up. You can see my screen. I have her book up. Author of Catching the Big Whale. I'm going to straight up read this. Victoria Mui is the leading expert in B2B sales, and she is the most well-known for selling to large corporations. Through her extensive experience as the owner and president of Corporate Champions, she has sold to have done business with companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Lululemon, PwC, Chevron, Samsung, Rolled Duty Free Canada, Cathay Pacific, and hundreds of other high-profile corporations. And this is on Amazon, right?
It is indeed.
Okay.
And it's not a book about fishing, by the way. It is.
Despite this very cool tale that's right here, the whale tale, it's deceiving. It's deceiving. But yeah, great book. Especially if you are in B2B sales. But that being said, beyond the whole authoring and being wonderful at events, she is my good friend. And I think that surpasses all of the other stuff, in my personal opinion. So I'm glad to have you on, Victoria.
Thanks for having me, Dina.
Okay, yes, I can. Thank you, Yo-Yo. I can hear you. Fantastic. All right, so I wanted to get into what is happening right now. I don't know. So Victoria's in Canada. I'm in Los Angeles in the States, or America, as some might say. And things are going crazy over here. So I don't know how things are in Canada. It doesn't seem like things are too wild.
No, I think pretty much people are more chill here.
Yeah.
we see the chaos on the news. We see the chaos, you go through your Facebook news feed. Pretty much every other article and news update is about that. But I think people are still, I still go to the coffee shop downstairs.
Yeah.
I still go out every now and then to a restaurant. No one's walking around wearing a mask or anything. I think in general, people feel more choked about not being able to travel and potentially losing money on their airfare. I feel like that's a bigger predicament for people over life essentials preparation.
Right. And here in LA as well, it's not even about airfare. And I'm sure a lot of people have gotten emails from different businesses. At least it was for me. Even Sephora sent me one of, hey, everything's okay. We check our products. I mean, it's crazy. That's where it has become. People are more afraid right now of, I think, their financial situation. They're looking at the stock market. Things are going crazy. And yeah, I'm not worried about the health issues just because I have a strong immune system. I think if I do happen to catch it, I'll be fine. It's more about me spreading it to other people and then more than that, selfishly, I guess I could say, is that the finances, the money part of it. So if you own a business, even if you are an employee in a company, you're worried that, maybe your company is going to start laying off people. If this continues, that's a very real possibility, especially depending on what industry you're in. That's a very real possibility as people stop spending because of the fear, because they can't work, because they can't go out. Then again, that's just going to perpetuate, and then we're going to just fall into recession. And are you prepared for that? And if you're not, the fear, it's just going to expand even more.
Yeah, and I think depending on which industry you are in, that's already happened. So for example, if you are in the airlines industry, I think we know that a few airlines have already begun to lay people off, right? If you are in any kind of entertainment, like event-based, like there's been a lot of big events that have been canceled. There are, the NBA, the NHL, the professional leagues, there's a lot of arena workers or court workers that all of a sudden just they don't really need to show up to work anymore. There are no games being played.
Yeah, schools too. Right now in LA, there's a lot of schools being shut down, and a lot of these people, even when you're paid by government, I don't know if they adjusted it specifically for Corona, but they're paid per child that goes in the school. So there's that, and at a certain point, I don't know. It's just not going good. And I can speak to the entertainment industry. I know Victoria, you're talking about events, but I'm dipped into the film and TV entertainment industry. And that side, I know a friend of mine who was in my acting class. She said, yeah, I was booked for international commercial, but due to the C virus, it got canceled. They had to push the shooting. And so a lot of, even in the entertainment industry, maybe your favorite episodes that it's supposed to come up 2 seasons from now, it's not going to come up because they're not shooting right now. There's all these studios are shutting down. They're not even shooting. They're not auditioning. I went to an audition, and even that, you could tell people were a little bit, right? And after that, it's just everything's just being shut down. So that's the situation.
There is a video going around, and I wish I have the link to show the resource, but it tells you that social distancing, it's actually extremely effective. So what they did in the video is they have all these dots. So there's a square, and then there's these dots representing humans, and they put like 200 people in there, 200 dots. And then they throw in one dot, so one person who's infected, and they basically time lapse it, right? As that one dot moves around and infects other people, how quickly it spreads. Yeah. And then they had a second scenario where social distancing was in play, and a lot of these dots just didn't move. They just kept the distance from each other. And some, like a small portion of it did move, and the containment was actually pretty low. So as long as they can keep it from peaking up and keeping it at a flat line, that makes a big difference in terms of how quickly it spreads and how much control you can have to containing it.
Yeah. So I get it. We need to socially distance ourselves and just try to have this stop, but we also need to prepare for just in case even the social distancing, how long it's going to last and how it's going to affect our business. I know Helen just said you're a custom clothing designer who works from home. My work style hasn't changed at all, which is great. It's great. I think the worry for a lot of people is, even if you do have an online at-home business, are the customers going to dry up because they're not spending anymore? And that's a very real thing, because as people get laid off, and if we fall into a major recession, then people are going to stop spending, and they might stop ordering online, just generally spending money. And so, hey, Victoria, that's a huge concern. Huge concern. I did want to address, before we get into that, the methodology that I personally noticed. And Victoria, if you've noticed anybody else doing this, then let me know, because I thought this was So good. Two great examples of what I got and emailed in real life. And then there was the indoor cycling studio and the acting studio that I both go to, and the difference that how they're adapting to what's happening right now. So right now there's a lot of quarantine, especially mom and pops places like the indoor cycling studio. Obviously, I go into the studio itself. It's very contained. If there's one person who has the virus, we're pretty sure to all get it because it's airborne. So they decided, they emailed me and then they said, hey, we're going to shut down the studio at least now until the end of March, and then we'll see how things go. And they straight up lose money because if you're on the monthly plan, they'll give you back the rest of the month. So they're losing money and they're choosing to lose money, which I guess it is socially responsible. However, it's not business responsible, if that makes sense. And I want to compare that to the acting studio and what they said to me just yesterday. So I go to an acting studio weekly and I pay a monthly recurring payment. And they recently sent an email saying, hey, look, all of this is going on. We're not going to do in-person acting, but instead we are going to continue and we're going to move it online. And at first I'm thinking, you can't move acting on, you can't do scene study online because it's about interacting with your partners. It's about acting together. You can't do it online. But then instead they said, look, we're not going to obviously do seat study online. However, we're going to dive into the business side of entertainment, and you're going to have a one-on-one session with your teacher and see where you are at right now in your career and where you can go and set out a strategic plan. And that I just thought that was so brilliant and amazing because of course, I want that. What I get, you're giving, it's not only you're replacing something with what I wanted, which is a scene study class, but you're giving me something that I still do want and something even better. Having a one-on-one session with the instructor would normally, a private session like that would cost quite a bit. It would cost quite a bit. And so you're giving me a reason to want to stay even more. It's not just, hey, we're replacing this. Not only are they replacing it, but they're giving me extra value because the thing is right now, even with people in my class, because the entertainment industry, even if you booked something, a commercial, a TV film, they're not shooting right now. So, meaning you're not getting paid. You're not going to get paid for that, even if you booked it. And so a lot of people, of course, they're going to think, wait, how can I cut costs? Acting class might be one of the ways. And they know that. They know that about their customers. They understand that. So they're basically saying, hey, let's get you on the right track to make more money in the future. And even though we're not going to do scene study, we're going to do something even better that's even more beneficial for you. So really getting into the client's mindset of what they're thinking and giving them extra value. So it doesn't seem like you're just replacing something, but you're actually giving them something more, and that it's worth the investing in yourself more, right? Even though it's the same price. So I thought that was brilliant. It's not only just replacing it, it's giving them more value. And I think that's key, especially when people are now in scarcity mode. And you can see the grocery stores in Los Angeles. There's not only no toilet paper, there's no paper towels, there's no food, there's no produce, there's no cans on the walls, there's no peanut butter or jelly, there's nothing. It's empty because we're all in scarcity mode and hoarding, including our money. So what is going to compel a client or customer to spend, to keep spending? You have to add more value. What do you think, Victoria?
You know, it's interesting to hear you say all that because what fear can do to people. You know, there's all these memes going on where, hey, you know, I don't know how I got infected because I bought all the toilet paper and all the hand disinfectants, right?
Yeah.
And I think the first thing is I think the government could have done a better job with education right off the bat. I think there were many countries, in fact, where they just really didn't take it as seriously as they should have. And they didn't really look far enough to kind of go, you know what? If we do get it, when we do get it, and it spreads, it can happen very quickly. And I really can't imagine, you know, people in the health industries, health professionals, that kind of would have a better understanding of how quickly things can get bad, they very likely they just didn't really take their advice, because I can't imagine a lot of professionals wouldn't know this and haven't given advice to, you know, top government officials and giving them warning. Even in Canada, we recently just put in place a not a travel ban yet, but if you read between the lines, it could be coming depending on things get.
Yeah.
You know, when the prime minister's wife is infected, you know, he's going to take it a little bit more seriously, right?
Oh, okay.
So there's another graph going around online saying that, you know what, for every day that you can contain it, it impacts, you know, exponentially how it spreads. So could we have contained it way back when, you know, we thought somebody in China had it, you know, before they started traveling? Yeah, it really came from, if you think about it, it was only probably like a handful of individuals that had left China infected, right? But now it's like globally all around the world. But the fear has been very polarizing, in my opinion. There are people that are like, oh, you know what, I'm young and healthy. Even if I get it, I'll recover. And going back to what you said earlier, well, you know, it's more egocentric type of thinking, because what if you're a carrier and you go to a family gathering and now you've passed it on to every single one of your family members, people who might not be able to handle being infected, right? Mm-hmm. Even people who are young and healthy, right, on the day-to-day basis. Someone like me, you know, I was born with pretty extreme asthma, right? If I were to get it, I don't know how I would be able to handle it. I consider myself young and healthy still, but if I were to get infected, what does that mean? You know, will I be able to recover? Because they have shown cases where they compared in China, two females, both in their mid to late 20s, both have had children. One's a doctor, one is a nurse. They both contracted it. One recovered and the other didn't. So people are like, well, is it really all because of age? Are there other factors, right? But it's interesting
definitely there's other factors.
It's interesting how people want to hoard toilet paper, and you know, and me and my friends were actually discussing it. We're like, why toilet paper? Because wouldn't you think that things that are disinfecting would be a higher priority? So
well, that's all sold out too. Well, okay, the toilet paper thing, if you don't actually know where it comes from, it was a fake news apparently that said, okay, the toilet paper manufacturer is all coming from China, and because China is in quarantine, you're not going to get toilet paper. Toilet paper is scarce, and that news spread everywhere. So then everybody bought toilet paper. So that's the story that I heard.
And the other story that I heard is interesting. It's because they think that the coronavirus is kind of like a flu, where it makes you want to use the washroom all the time.
No, but that's not the case. Well, and then here's the other thing, because at first I thought, okay, people, who cares about toilet paper? But guess what? I'm on my last 2 rolls of toilet paper and there's no toilet paper. I go into every single grocery store and there's no toilet paper. On Amazon, I go on Amazon. I don't know if everybody else, maybe there's a super like crazy $100 toilet paper, but you go on Amazon and it's sold out everywhere. So now it's actually a thing where I go on Facebook Market, and I posted this on my Instagram TV, where there's a roll for $5. It's a used roll. It's not even new. It's used for $5. And I'm willing to bet that somebody bought that roll, because it's nowhere. It's nowhere. And luckily I scored some paper towels, like just in case, you know, and some tissue paper boxes, because that was available. And I was like, okay, maybe I have that. But there's an actual scarcity issue going on, where legitimately, at least here in Los Angeles, there is no toilet paper. So if you have toilet paper, it's like having gold.
I would imagine it's a bigger deal to have access to toilet paper when I'm out in public. Because at home, like let's be resourceful, right? Let's think, hey, if I actually don't have access to toilet paper, I probably have some towel. I have some cloth that like that baby diapers. You know, there are people who are super environmentally friendly. They don't use disposable ones. They use cloth ones, right? Yeah. You can get a bidet going. You can jump in the shower. I mean, it's it really that big of a deal to actually risk getting infected by lining up at Costco at 5 a.m. just so that you can.
Well, no, but you can't even do that anymore, because there's none at Costco. It's gone. They're nowhere. It's
and
not an option. But I get what you're saying.
With people selling in the parking lot for $5 a roll, like they always say, right? During the low times, during the down times is when really you see the truth in people, right? Ethically speaking, to see someone putting a sign up on their car saying, yeah, hey, you know what? You really want this? You really want to survive? You're going to have to pay for it. That kind of capitalism.
It's not survival. Again, like you said, nobody's gonna die if they don't have toilet papers. It's just silly. And I applaud the person who thought ahead or something, and they're just responding to what the market wants. That's business. That there's a pain and there's a solution, and you're offering the solution. And if somebody wants to pay for that, then
I don't know if that's so black and white, because like in times of crisis, right, when there's fear, I think instead of I think true help is like, hey, you have fear and you really want toilet paper for $5 a roll, and I'll give it to you. I think there's a line somewhere where it has to deal with like health, which I think it's,
But toilet paper does not have to do with health.
It's true, but you're, to capitalize on someone's illegitimate fear, I don't know if that's true value. Like for me doing business, I think like in terms of my personal opinion, doing business, like you have to offer real value to the market.
But to them, that is like, who are you to say that's not real value? Because to somebody else, toilet paper might be real value.
During the time when they have temporary insanity, I get it.
Yeah.
Which is basically right now,
we're
right?
All in some sort of temporary insanity. For example, Helen, you mentioned that you do custom designing clothing. I've certainly purchased, when it comes to dresses, for me, I don't care how much it costs. Yeah, I mean, there's a certain point in which I'm like, okay, maybe not, but I will easily drop $300 on a dress without thinking about it, because it brings me that much value. But I don't necessarily would drop that on anything else, even though it's, to some people, they might think, why would you, whatever, like $300-$500 on a single dress. But to me, if I find a good dress, or if I can get it customized, or whatever it is, to me, that adds a lot of value. But to another person, it might seem ridiculous, because to them, they would never do that. So, and I'm just applying it to the toilet paper situation, where, to some people, they value it highly, and to some other people, they think you're crazy. Right.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think it really depends on the context right here. Because to me, I just feel like, some people just, they're too easily influenced,
Okay, but that's not, I mean,
so it kind of borderline, it's hype buying. It's when people line up for anything at all. Like what in this world is worth lining up for? I guess,
iPhone, clearly.
I mean, iPhones, dresses that you like.
Yes.
And I think that's fine, because I think you consciously sat down and kind of said, you know what? I like dresses. I'm willing to line up. I'm willing to spend this kind of money because this makes me happy. And it's a very conscious decision.
Right.
Nobody came around and kind of told you need dresses. Otherwise, you're going to run out of dresses, and put fear into you. And I think but
now you're talking about marketing versus what the market already wants. You're talking about, let's say there's copywriting on an ad saying that, versus, hey, the market is begging for this, and you're offering what the market is already begging for. I think there's a difference there.
I'm coming from the psychology of things, like when individuals can be completely clear on what they really need and what they really want. Because let's take the fear out of this whole thing, right? Let's take the fear out.
Yeah.
Because right now people are just not logical. They're not logical because there's fear.
Humans aren't really that logical.
Right? But then they're doing it in masses. So if I alone, I'm kind of crazy. Well, I buy a lot of shoes. I used to buy a lot of shoes. Actually, I would just recklessly buy any kind of shoes.
Reading, you still currently buy a lot of shoes.
Not the same anymore. Not the same.
Buys a lot of shoes.
I buy a lot of shoes. I'm a bit of a sneakerhead. So if I see an Instagram post with these like Air Jordan ones.
Not sometimes, all the time. Hey, this looks cool.
But it's a conscious decision, not a fear-based decision.
I think it's fear-based. Victoria wants to be cool.
One day I will run out of shoes. I must buy as many now as possible in my size.
But the fear doesn't have to be that. The fear might be, if I don't buy these shoes right now, it's a rare thing, then it's going to be gone, right? Because this is a whatever series and it's limited edition. That in itself, that's marketing creating fear in a customer. And they do it all the time. And you buy into it. Oh, these are the white kicks. They don't have this edition out, this and that. I mean, it's the same exact thing. The fear is just
okay. But logically, I know that I don't need it to survive. So the people that are lining up buying toilet paper, they legit, to some degree, I bet you, they feel like they would be in crisis because there's a lack of toilet paper.
But that's how teenagers feel about shoes.
It's sometimes Victoria as well.
Yes. So okay, you can't control the people, but I think it's important, just going back to the point, looping it back, to really think about your clients and your customers and because everybody has fears. They have a fear. What is their fear right now? Going back to the example of the acting studio, they already know how actors think. They already know that, hey, I'm not getting gigs. Even if I book, they're not shooting right now, so money isn't coming in. So they're in a money scarcity mode. So their promise, so to speak, is let's get you more money in the future. Let's get your career right. You're giving value and addressing their problem at the same, or addressing their fear, I should say, due to the C virus. You're addressing their fear at the same time. You have to address the fear. And to the actors, it's not the fear of getting sick, right? To the actors, it's the fear of money's drying up right now. Even if I have residuals coming in, but money's drying up right now, because even if I book, it doesn't matter because they're not shooting. And that's a legitimate fear. And I think that's fine. You're adding straight value and you're addressing value based off of the fear that, they legitimately have, but you're also legitimately adding value to them. Okay, Helen had a question. For anyone who still is buying anything locally produced goods will seem safer to them. What do you all think about this concept?
People buying local stuff, it feels safer to buy local?
Yeah, I get that. So instead of buying it on Amazon, let's say, because you don't know where that's been and it gets delivered, and I mean, you just don't know.
I think if we practice social distancing, if we are diligently washing our hands, that's really that's all that we can do, really, to be individually as a person, to be fully responsible. Mm-hmm. But if you actually need essentials and you need it to survive, and it's interesting because right now is the time where it really forces you to be resourceful and actually think about and analyze whether or not you're actually ready for crisis. Because you mentioned a lot about the acting industry. Really, this is impacting everything worldwide, right?
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter if people are like, well, the opportunity is online. Well, if people are scared, because in times like these, what's most valuable, in my opinion, you got to be liquid. You don't have some cash on you ready. You don't have that. I think that's really where the fear comes from. The fear now is people are thinking, you know what they say, the old singing, for the rainy day, you really should have at least 3 to 6 months of liquid cash, 3 to 6 months worth of your salary sitting in your bank, just ready to rock if anything happens, right?
Okay. So let's address that then, because what if you don't have 3 to 6 months worth of cash laying in your bank? What do you do now? What's your game plan? Because now we have to think about the future. So let's say you don't have a business, or even if you do, because if you do, like I said, you got to get creative online, add extra value to your clientele. And I would even suggest that because even Sephora is doing this. I know, Helen, you mentioned that your market is luxury clientele and they have a pretty secure investments, a healthy discretionary budget. I get that. But even these big companies, and I know you're a small business, so you can't really compare yourself to Sephora and other big companies, but I think it doesn't do any harm to address it as a business in some way, some format, even to just socially acknowledge it, so to speak, and create that trust with your clients. I don't think that would necessarily hurt. But
I think it's always great, when somebody actually cares enough to, it's odd because I'm getting these emails from companies that I would never think about. Like, it's not top of mind when I'm dealing with situations like this. Oh, my cell phone company just emailed me.
About my cell phone company too.
And I'm like, oh, that's the last thing I'm thinking about. But you know what? But it's not, if you think about it. So if people are worried about toilet paper, maybe they're worried about communication.
Well, it's not even about that. Okay, let's just think about it from a marketing point of view. And I don't mean to just dismiss the health benefit, yada, yada. But from a marketing point of view, it made me think, hey, oh yeah, I am with T-Mobile. Hey, I am a loyal customer. Oh yeah, I am a beauty insider with Sephora. And it reminded me, it was almost an excuse. And I don't mean to go there, but it's true. It was also an excuse to remind people that, hey, we're still here. Hey, we're still with you. Right. And hey, we're addressing what's happening in the world right now. And it's just an excuse to have another touch point with your customer, with your clients, and creating that bond, creating that trust. It's just a good,
it's a nice gesture. It doesn't make a difference ultimately when you're already receiving, like most people, like 50 emails a day in their inbox, like what's another one? But it is nice. It is nice, see in the subject title, hey, my cell phone company is emailing me. They care enough about, but you know what? If you think a little further down the road, it does become an actual concern because right now, businesses are trying to survive. It doesn't matter how big or small, really, right? The big ones, let's be realistic. They're probably thinking about, do we need to lay people off if this continues for another 3 to 6 months? It has already happened to many companies, right? You're a small company, you're not liquid, you're not getting the business, right? And, if you go to certain places like restaurants, like people are eating out less, right? No more social gatherings, right? They're saying, it's interesting, hey, any events 250 people and up, we're going to cancel them.
But now, even though that's true in a lot of places, this is what I'm saying, even locally, my indoor cycling studio, my acting studio, there's less than 10 people, there's 10 people in the class. So,
but it takes one person, right? That's all it takes.
Yes. And it's funny because there's somebody in my class who has an autoimmune, it's not funny, but she has the autoimmune disease, and she clearly didn't come to class for that very same reason. And all of us were just thinking, okay, well, we understand she's not coming to class. I felt bad. I was, maybe we can Skype her in, maybe we can Zoom her in, but it wouldn't be the same. And I'm glad they gave us this other offer to force us to stay home, but giving us extra value. But it does affect a lot of people. So, okay, going back to the 3 to 6 months, Victoria, what would you recommend in your expertise and what you've known if, let's say, you're not liquid for 6 months, you don't have liquid cash for 6 months worth to survive? What would you suggest they do right now? And of course, we could address business owners as a primary, and then going into employees.
It's tough because now you're really in hustle mode, right? So anybody who hasn't thought about the 3 to 6 months, right? If they're living month to month, if they've been trying to make big changes in their life and they were expecting to go in the dip, but looking for that climb, then this whole situation happens and kind of kiboshes everything. Then what do you do? I don't think it's going to be banking on anything fancy. I think it's just going back to good old grassroots hustling. You look at your possession. It's like the Gary Vee mentality, right? You look at what's in your possession. What can you turn liquid? Okay. What don't you need right now that you can get rid of and turn liquid? Right? And realistically, not everyone is going to be in fear for this, rise. Yes, we do need to practice social responsibility, social distancing, right? So I would time that as like, okay, you know what? I've sat around at home for 2 weeks now, right? I'm making plans, I'm strategizing. There's other people who have also quarantined themselves. If nothing happens within those 2 weeks, I can actually I can think about getting together with those people, right? And making things happen. Maybe I can still do business. Maybe I can still do something.
Are you suggesting networking right now?
I'm suggesting that if we are all responsible with social distancing, we would know that if we time ourselves, right, 2 to 3 weeks, we're good, we're healthy, right? There are other people who have done the same thing that you know of, potentially. So at some point, we have to be self-aware and self-diligent and monitoring that ourselves. The government cannot come in and say, all right, everyone, do not come out. It's like Italy. Okay, do not leave your home now. Like, it's like China right now. Do not leave your home. After which day, then we can tell you can leave your home. I don't think many countries are going to go to that extreme. So what that means is we have to self-govern and self-monitor. Okay, I'm going to publicly announce, hey guys, you know what? Starting today, I'm actually going to not go out. I'm going to not meet with people. I'm going to do everything online. If you're doing the same, if you're on the same timeline with me, after 2-3 weeks, if we're good, probably it's safe for us to kind of get together and start being normal again. Because at some point, people have to start going back to living a normal life, right?
Yeah.
And again, we have to be conscious. Okay, is the situation getting bad? Like, what have we done to govern ourselves, right? What are we doing to capitalize on the opportunity, other than trying to sell $5 a roll toilet paper? Right? It forces you to sit down and really think about your situation. You really have no excuse now, right? Like, if you've never thought about that before, if you're never somebody who has looked forward enough, you're just looking at month to month, or maybe just your situation just kind of puts you into not allowing you to look too much further. Well, you're forced to do that now. You really have no excuse, right? And you're really forced to take a look at, what are my skill sets? What can I do? What kind of people do I know, right? It's no longer a game. It's no longer like topics of discussion just for fun, over a beer or coffee, right? It's like, now it's very real, right? Yeah. Now you take a look at, okay, what can I actually do? So here's my worry, right? People know a little bit about investing. People know a little bit about money, but they don't know enough, right? So then you have people, like you said, well, okay, well, there's a need in the marketplace. But to me, it's like, sometimes it's not a real need. It's just like creating that hype, using that fear and leveraging, right? So people might go, oh yeah, now's the time to invest. Now's the time to drop all your money into, I don't know, like Bitcoin and crypto and whatever it is, right? Without knowing anything, because they're liquid, right? And they're thinking, oh, maybe now is the time to jump on. Now is actually not the time to jump onto anything if you don't have enough knowledge in anything.
Right.
Right. It really goes to show that, okay, again, when times are low, people show their real selves. Is this person going to be resourceful? Is this person going to be more humanitarian? Right? Am I going to make money in ways that I've never thought of before, or I'm just going to sell $5 toilet paper in the parking lot? It tells you a lot about different people.
Right, but let's not dismiss. I know I'm protecting the $5 toilet paper person, but let's not dismiss, because we talk about hustle. I don't want to dismiss the hustle part of the $5 toilet paper, because you don't know, the person who's selling the $5 toilet paper might not have a job now, and they have to sell their toilet paper for $5. And if that's what you need to do to get by, then I'm all for it, right? Because you're really just offering a value that you're sacrificing your toilet paper, let's say, maybe they need it, whatever, to offer it to the market.
I'm a little bit more okay with that if that person actually feels bad and know that it's not the best thing to do. Versus somebody legit kind of goes, yeah, you know what? You want toilet paper? I got toilet paper. I'm actually running low. They're $10 a roll now.
But that's the same argument people. So if you don't know Gary Vee, by the way, Helen, you said, oh, maybe because my clientele is the woman who usually travels to New York, to Paris, to buy couture clothing, but cannot now. But if the economy tanks, no one will be thinking about couture. Yes, of course. Then it would be time to offer a maintenance service for the client's existing wardrobe. I love that. So that goes back to what Victoria is saying, thinking creatively. I was almost thinking, oh, well, I don't know if you do this, but going into being a stylist consult or something like that, and I don't know if that's a real, that would be in line with what you do, but there's a lot of things that you can offer that's beside, that might be in line with what they actually.
I think I even want to go further if I want to be more extreme.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say this is like 6 months down the road and we're still in the same situation. Let's say the situation hasn't peaked out, which means, you know what they say, it gets a little bit worse. It gets worse before it gets better, right?
Yeah.
So it has to hit that peak. So let's say 3 to 6 months down the road, we haven't hit that peak, right? So what do people do? And again, then I go back to like, it's no longer about thinking about making money. It comes down to it. There's a shift in, if you think of it like it being in an apocalypse, for those people who've watched The Walking Dead, let's use that, right? Like money no longer has value. If it gets, it depends on how bad things get, right? It's just going to be the commodity, like stuff that you actually need for survival. So for me, I'm no longer thinking purely business, even though right now I think that's on everyone's mind, right?
Yeah.
How to generate money financially and all of that. But I'm thinking about literally like having, being more community oriented. Like thinking about how can we share resources as human, right? Like I'm removing the whole business side out of the equation now, right? Okay. Right now we're down to like people are borderline trying to break into stores to like take canned goods kind of a situation, right?
Right.
In that kind of case, it's like you got to think you're legitimately thinking about survival. So now you're thinking, well, I don't necessarily want to start up by thinking I got to break into Walmart, right? But in terms of thinking about who can I support, who can support me, how can we get together as human being, as a community to actually survive this? That's actually one of the things I would think about outside of trying to make money. Because again, I'm going very polarizing to when things get really bad and money no longer are what people actually want, right? Then you got to have to think about something else in order to, you think about your family, you think about yourself, right? You think about self-care, right? It's like, when you're on the airplane, they tell you to put your mask on first before you put it on, your kids or, people who need help, right? So if you can't help others if you can't help yourself, right? So you really have to think about, okay, I'm not liquid. I'm about to run out of food, right?
Yeah.
All right, I don't have toilet paper, whatever it is, right? Let's put ourselves in that situation. What would we actually do in that time? Because now you're beyond trying to think of how to make money. It's a different level.
Yes, 100%. So, okay, so then let's talk about that because, of course, I do think it's a balance that you do, as of right now, think about making the money, having that come in, but we also have to think about money in the future, not money in the future, but what our future looks like. And like you said, you're going to be worried about very different things. I would also argue that this can also, okay, this sounds savage, but this can also be who are you building alliance with right now? And who do you want to build a community with? Because it's not like you're just going to invite your home to everybody and all the strangers of the world. Because even right now, already at the parking lot at the grocery store, there's people just honking, they're yelling at each other. And this is America. So this is not unusual normally, but it's heightened because of people's fear and all of that. You're not going to look out for those people. You're going to look out for your loved ones, right?
Let's think about when we watched this TV series, the reality show Survivor. Let's think about that. Okay. People start analyzing each other, then they make alliances with the stronger people. It becomes, a survival of the fittest. You want to ally with the best people, right? And you think about, oh yeah, who in my world, who are my friends that I would go to extend the longevity of my life? If all the resources were to get depleted, if we were to get into apocalypse, who would you go to? Whose house would you go to so that you can feel safer, right? I don't think, again, we're being very extreme so we can have this conversation, right? But that being said, maybe we should think about those things. Who am I to say that these things won't happen to some of the countries who are in shutdown right now.
Oh, it's already happening. It's already happening. Well, okay, so here's the thing. When we're talking about country like America, and I don't know how, it's probably the same in Canada, I feel like. It's very different from places like Japan. My brother was there in Japan during the earthquake, one of the biggest earthquakes that it just demolished communities. And what was interesting, because Japan is Japan and it's a community oriented country, that's just the culture, which there's negative sides to it because you can't be an individual and being individualistic is looked down upon. But in times of need, it's a great country to be in because everybody looks out, strangers look out for you. And he would wake up in the morning and he would have a bowl of rice in front of his apartment door and miso soup from a neighbor stranger. They don't even leave a note. They don't want to be acknowledged. They just want to make sure that their neighbor is fed. You will not see that in the States. You can't rely upon that. So then we get into people who are in Western world. We get into this scarcity mentality of thinking, okay, who are my alliances, which is fair. I think it's fair because you have to acknowledge what culture you're in and all of that.
Yeah, agreed. And that's the community vibe that I was talking about, right? It's like, okay, I actually don't know any of my neighbors that live on my floor. The only time we see each other is if the fire alarm comes on and we stick our head out and we go, okay, do we have to go down? Is this a real fire alarm? Those are the only moments where we get together and kind of go, oh, hi, haven't seen you before, right? And but then, okay, when bad things happen, I'm thinking, man, I really should try to get to know them because they live on my floor. And if anything, they're going to be physically speaking, they're close proximity to me for us to help each other out.
That's true. That's true. We really got to think about our neighbors and building that alliance, because also on the flip side, they're the ones who would be first to F you over. In a die-hard situation, because they're close in proximity. So you better make friends. And I know that's coming from a fear mindset, but you gotta really think about both sides. Do you want to be friends or do you want to be enemies? And if you build enough rapport with them, even now, you can do that now. Well, it's kind of hard a little bit, but thinking about in the future, you want to build rapport as many people as you can, so the likelihood that they will screw you over is less. And then of course you have the resource potentially to share with them, and everybody's survival rate just goes up because of that. Okay, so what can we tangibly do? We talked about being as liquid as possible, trying to hustle out things, Gary Vee style, of selling whatever it is that you can sell, including toilet paper. and of course, if you do have a business, I do think you can add extra value, add something more to your already good clients who maybe want to withdraw, maybe they want to cancel, maybe they don't want to order from you again. So giving them something extra. What else can we do long term?
I think right now is a good time to use your credit. I mean, if you've ever used your credit card, let's just think about why people use credit cards, right? Some people.
Wait, hold on. What do you mean by that? Or are you about to explain it?
Yeah, I'm about to explain that.
Okay.
Right. So let's think about credit, right? There's a few types of people that use a credit card. Number one, they actually don't have money. They're relying on the credit, which really is the situation now, potentially, right? Number two is people have money, but they want to build up their credit because, people who have money, they do need credit as well. We need credit for a variety of things, right? Just it's used as a judgment of who you are, in fact, right? Maybe I have a lot of money, I have a lot of cash, but I still need to use my credit card so I can build up my credit score. So in which case, if one day I want to buy an office space, or at least an office space, I want to buy a car, I want to do all these things, they're going to look at my credit. They're not going to look at my bank account, right? Let's think about that.
Yeah.
So if you're not liquid, well, hopefully you've been in good standing with your credit cards and with your credit, because now is the time to actually use it. you've spent time building that credit up, right? You know, whatever credit card company, they, you know, very, very likely they've given you, a couple increases over time if you're in good standing. If you need to use it, now's the time. That's really one of the reasons why you would want to have a credit card, right? Why you want to build up credit. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you're not so liquid. So then what do is you use your credit, but then you got to think about your short-term payment goal. Well, at some point you're going to have to pay that back, right? So if you're that strapped, I would map that out. I would literally take out a spreadsheet. If you don't even know how much you spend already, now is also the time to think about how much money do you spend on food? How much money do you spend on rent? How much money do you spend on paying for your mortgage, your kids, your spouse, your business, right? Now's the time to kind of do a cleanse. Do I need any of this? No, cross it out, right? What are my key essentials? I'm going to highlight those. I need those to survive. What are nice to haves, right? Now's the time to do that, sit down and do that clearing. It's all, you know what? Coincidentally, it's also tax time.
Yes, so I was going to say that.
So hopefully you get a return and you don't owe. that's a hopeful situation. That's an ideal situation. But yeah, now's the time to go, no, you know what? I need to dip into my credit. Then that's okay. And I know some people have a fear in using their credit because it somehow makes them feel like they don't have money, they're poor. It's like, no, don't think that. There's good debt, then there's bad debt. And there's debt that you absolutely just need to use to survive. So don't even think about judging yourself. If you need to use it, but have a plan. Have a plan on how to pay it back. Hey, you know what? Worst case scenario, in 6 months, that's how long it's going to take for things to get better. These are the things, these are the action steps I'm going to do in the next 6 months. In 6 months, I need to have my finances at this point in order for me to be able to pay back my credit card. These are the interest rates, and this is the amount of interest I'm willing to pay that I need to pay in order to survive the next 6 months. Map that all out. Don't keep it all in your head. You need to actually write it down. You need to kind of have that wake up call and go, you know what? There's actually a crap ton of stuff that I really shouldn't be paying for, right? Mm-hmm. What are my essentials? Is my phone an essential? Yes. Actually, don't cut your phone. When you have to social distance yourself and in quarantine, don't cut your phone. Let people contact you. Allow people to connect with you. But do you need high-speed internet for the next few months? Maybe you just need some internet, not high speed. Can you lower that? Yeah. Can you turn off all your heat right now? What's the heating situation? Can you just put on a couple of layers more clothes, right? And if we have to get down to nitty gritty stuff and lowering, and you have to do that, then do it. Why not? Yeah. Right? If that's the situation you're in, don't judge yourself. Just do what you need to do.
And what's great is now it's easier than ever to cut costs because nobody's going out. So you don't have the excuse of, oh, I need to pay for drinks. Oh, I'm going to the theater. Whatever. Maybe I'm going out to eat. For me, I can spend a lot on food just because I like to socialize in public, in restaurants and such. And that can add up pretty quickly. But if we're in quarantine, it's so easy to save money because you also have that excuse of, hey, actually, let's go on Zoom instead and you have that excuse to rely upon. And you can also network and build up a networking. There's so much you can do online. I mean, of all the times in the history of humankind for this to happen, we have so much opportunity that it's insane. And back to your point of credit card and monitoring everything, it might be useful to, even if you don't need it now, to apply. And given that you don't really have much credit, you can go ahead and apply right now, because a lot of even credit card companies, just all companies in general, they're hurting. So if you already do have a good credit score and you have a good income coming in, because they look at all of that, then you can go ahead and apply it. And if you don't need to use it, you don't need to use it, but it's there. And likely you can probably get into if you're in the States anyway, a 0% APR for 18 months or something like that, where you don't have to actually pay back anything more than, so whatever you borrow, if you pay back in that 18 months or 12 months or whatever the promotion is, you're solid, you're good. And so that's something to consider if you if you have that option in your hands.
Yeah, definitely think about what you still can do, even if it's just to psychologically, mentally make you feel better about what's going on.
And that's huge because, okay, I want to mention this cortisol level. So I learned a big lesson on cortisol and how it affects your body, which let's just address the fear. The fear raises your cortisol level. When you raise your cortisol level, your immune system naturally suffers from that. And when your immune system is so low, you naturally, let's say you don't even catch the C virus, you catch a common cold that's actually a common cold and it's not the virus, but number one, people don't want to come near you because you have the cold and they don't know if you have the virus. They're just going to assume you have the virus, which is a big fear of people. People don't even want to get sick at all because of what that looks like, right? Sorry, I just lost track of what I was saying. What was I talking about? Okay, well, anyway.
I was gonna let you finish that thought, but yeah, I mean, I think you were starting on talking about credit and how everything is okay, and you kind of just kept it going from there. But I think, yeah, and I think what we keep talking about the negative.
Oh, okay,
stuff, right?
Victoria. Okay, so somebody was listening, not Victoria Mui. We're talking about cortisol level. Okay, so sorry. So cortisol level, what I found out when I would move away from a job that had high cortisol or caused high cortisol, when I moved away, my gut issue went away. For example, I used to have really terrible gut issue, and I'm not saying that it's all gone and all cured now. However, when I had high cortisol because I was in a high stress environment, I would wake up wanting to throw up. And it's not because I was pregnant, because I certainly wasn't, and that wasn't a possibility. I would just feel sick constantly. And I had gut issues where I couldn't digest many different things. And it was really affecting my whole health. And I could barely stay up. There's just a lot of things that it affected and I could barely do. And then magically, once that cortisol level came down, because I changed my environment, I changed what I'm doing, I changed what I'm concentrating on, this and that, all of a sudden, I'm healthy. I wake up in the morning, I jump up, I dance in front of my mirror. I just feel so good. There's just so much energy inside of me. And it affects my immune system, where if I do happen to, I don't know, I guess I would get something, it would go away like that. And before, I could get a common cold, and it would last a month. That's ridiculous. If you have a good immune system, it shouldn't last you that long. And so when it comes to cortisol and the fear, and you might be affected, especially if you know that you're affected by people around you in your environment, you really got to stay away from those fear environment, because it'll raise your cortisol level, because we go into fight and flight mode, and it's going to affect everything that you do, not only within your own body and your health wise and lowering your immune system, but it affects the way you think, because when you're thinking in that high cortisol level and you're in fight or flight, you're only thinking short term. Everything is short term because it has to be. That's your response. That's your natural body mechanism. It's hard to get logical when you have that high cortisol. So you do have to really think about what is happening to your cortisol level and how's that affecting your judgment in terms of what you are doing, how you're strategizing for your business, for your career, because it makes a difference. And you might make an emotional decision by, okay, I'm going to sell everything, I'm going to move out, I'm going to do this. And you really got to make decisions from a low cortisol level, take a bath, whatever you need to do, and get yourself out of fear infested environments, because the lower your cortisol level is, number one, you'll be healthy. Number two, you'll make a more logical decision that's going to benefit you in the long term and not just screw you over because you're only thinking about the short term. And we can get that way when we're in survival mode and we have high cortisol, whether it's called for or not. It's interesting because in acting class, he was just talking about this. The teacher said, your feelings are not facts. So whatever it is, and we tend to believe our thoughts. So when our thoughts are thinking stuff and our feelings are aligning with our thoughts, we tend to believe it's real. So it's the reason why people will buy toilet paper. It's the reason why people do all sorts of things, because they actually believe what their thoughts are, because they're feeling a certain way and they have the high cortisol level. So they're fear invested. They're not thinking logical. They're thinking emotionally. And that, I mean, that goes into your business, that goes into your career, that goes into how you interact with people. So,
and I like what Robert's saying, actually. He says meditation.
Meditation, yes.
Hey, if people don't know, both Kina and I have been to a Vipassana retreat. I don't know if anybody knows what Vipassana is.
I'm sure some people do.
Some people do. Maybe some people do.
But what is it?
Well, if you're an introvert, you might like it a little bit more. So Vipassana meditation, it's a type of meditation, right? But the retreat, what it is, it's actually a 10-day retreat where you go. And my first experience, I've been twice actually. My first time is they take your cell phone, they take your car keys, they take a wallet, they take all your essentials and they put it in a bag and they put it away for you. And they're like, all right, we're going to remove it for you. Not because we think that you're going to cheat, but it's a safer place. Because so where I went to was, it's a 3-hour drive from Vancouver, east of Vancouver, a little town called Merritt. When you get there, there's nothing there. There's barely internet, right? You drive in. My first experience was in the summertime. There were bear gates, like electric fences. Once I saw the electric fence, I'm like, all right, we're in the middle of nowhere now, right? I'm a city girl. I live in downtown Vancouver. I'm all of a sudden in Merritt, BC, being surrounded by electric fences. And I'm like, all right, I can do this. So basically what it is you stay there for 10 days in a cabin. So there's a female side and there's a male side. And then there's a grand hall in the middle where you congregate a couple times a day. But essentially it's like a little cabin out there and you meditate about 9 hours a day for 10 days. And in those 10 days, you don't talk to anyone. You don't make any eye contact. There's zero communication. So not even, you can't gesture, there's nothing. You pretend you're by yourself. You legitimately go there, even though I was sharing a cabin with maybe 30 other women. I pretended nobody was there. I was just there by myself. The morning bell starts at 4 a.m. Yes, that's right, 4 a.m. And you meditate until 6 a.m. Then so this person walks around with the gong, a little mini gong to kind of tell you the time of day it is, right? Basically, there's a schedule board in the main lobby. You can go out and it tells you what you're supposed to do. But it's not fancy. It's basically you wake up, meditate, eat breakfast, take a break, meditate, take a break, meditate. You have lunch, meditate.
Exactly. You just meditate all day essentially. And you meditate two hours at a time or so. And surprisingly, and I don't think I really needed it at the time. I would love to do it right now. Maybe, I don't know if they probably canceled it because of the virus, but it was so great to and it was so easy. It's very interesting to see how people react to it, because for some people it's extremely hard for them to do. And for some people, like for me, it was such a breeze. I feel like there was very little struggle for me to do it. And I was relieved at the fact that I get to be hyper introverted, I guess.
It's very liberating, isn't it?
It is.
It's like, wow, like I only need to worry about myself. And I don't think about other people's judgment. I don't care if they're looking at me. I mean, I don't even know if they are. Like you can just do it, like legitimately, you're just thinking, what do I want to do to be able to meditate in peace? Like that's your only goal every single day. And there's nothing you can do. You cannot read, you cannot entertain yourself. There's nothing. So when they give you a break time, it's interesting. The hall that I was in, there's a middle section where it's all, the whole wall is glass and you can see through into this little courtyard where they have a couple of gardeners just, making it nice into a little garden plant area. And all the women would just stand there in front of the glass and just look out. And that's all you would do. And the break is like an hour long. So you're just standing there, literally waiting for time to pass. But that's not really the mentality, right?
Yeah, you're just observing and enjoying, because the whole thing with Vipassana is to observe. That's the whole thing. Just observe what's happening and don't judge. Don't think about why. Don't think about any questioning of what you're observing, but you're just simply observing. So it's a very specific kind of meditation. And I know there's all types, and there's a type for everybody. So to your point, Robert, you're asking long hours meditating, what to do if one has problems being in the moment. Because I'm the type of person, Vic, you know, that I'm kind of all over the place. And I think for people who know me, it would be hard to imagine that going through Vipassana was very much so a breeze to me, just because my energy tends to be right everywhere. But at the same time, it goes back to observing. So Robert, like if you have a problem with being in the moment, then it's just a matter of observing what's happening in the moment and not judging what's happening. You're just simply observing, and observing what's going on in your own body is what we did in Vipassana. But if you want to simply even observe, like during our breaks in Vipassana, like you said, people were just staring outside because what they were essentially doing was observing. That's the whole theme of the 10 days, to observe without judgment, without any thought. You just observe.
You reduce your desire to look for stimulus, which is what we do. We're looking for our phone. We're looking for something to entertain us. You like to some degree. There's somebody like, no, your phone isn't telling you anything. You're going to unlock it and look at it anyways. Isn't that what we do? Yes. Isn't that what we do, right? Yeah. We're like hoping, hey, I have nothing to do for the next 5 seconds. Maybe someone's going to send me a message right now. When you're in Vipassana, all that goes out the window. Like, that's not what you think about. When you go into like basically like extreme meditation, well, I mean, extremely long hours is more like it. But you just really don't judge yourself. If you have problems, then I wouldn't even think of it as a problem. I would just gonna go, oh, I got distracted again. Let me just go back to doing it. So it's very liberating because you stop judging yourself completely.
But you know what? I was thinking about it because I have a hard time meditating in my personal life. On a day-to-day basis, I don't meditate. And I think the reason, this goes back to the cortisol thing I was talking about. I think that it was easy for me because I was in the environment that allowed it to be easy for me, because you're amongst other people and you're not allowed to look at your phone. You're not allowed to read a book. You're not allowed to write down anything. You're not allowed to. And I'm in an environment where nobody else is doing it. So for me, it was very easy. It was a breeze. The 10 days went by so freaking fast. And it was just done. And then I was just thinking, okay, great. So what do I do now? I guess it's over, right? But for other people, they had a profound experience, this and that. And it's going to be different for everybody, of course.
Yeah, it's a very different way of learning about yourself, for sure.
Well, yeah. And I didn't really realize it, but it's because I was put in an environment that allowed me to be that. It wasn't because, oh, I'm so great and I can just meditate anytime, anywhere, because that's not true. When I tried to meditate, and I would meditate 2 hours at a time, no problem, breeze, right? But if I tried to do that in the morning right now, I'm like, I can't do it.
Have you seen those movies where it's like the main character is moving very slowly, but everything behind them is like moving super fast? There's like certain scenes, right? I feel like that when I try to meditate. I also find it very difficult sometimes to stop myself from all the hustle and bustle of, just living day to day here, and just stop and just kind of go, whew, I'm only going to think about myself right now and my mental state and everything that comes with that. I'm just going to give myself a few minutes. Like, how ridiculous it is sometimes that we can't even give ourselves 5 to 10 minutes to meditate. And we have all these excuses in the world.
It's not even giving yourself, though. It's hard work, man.
It is. It's like going to the gym. It's in some ways it's harder than trying to get yourself to the gym.
Yeah. Oh, gym is so easy. I would much rather do 1 hour indoor cycling, hardcore sweating, then, and to me, and you know what the thing is, meditation doesn't have to be, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to meditate. It doesn't have to be that, because to me, indoor cycling is a form of meditation because I stop thinking. And anybody who's done anything physical, when you just, and yoga, yeah, Victoria, yoga is that for you. You just, you don't think, and you're in this flow where you're just doing whatever it is that you're doing. Recently, I did aerial arts at a studio. I posted on my Instagram and all of that, but it was great to just physically do something, whether it's sitting there and concentrate on your breath, or you're concentrating on doing a certain act. But the fact that you're allowing yourself to just not think and just do, like Nike says, just do it. I think that creates a form of meditation, because now you just are, you're in that flow. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, like Vic, I know you do sports, so I feel like that's a similar.
I think anything that we enjoy that makes us forget about things in general, and we're just completely into whatever we're doing in that moment. I think that's in a way, I can agree, that's a form of meditation. Like taking long walks for sure. Like I love my walks.
I love my walk too.
I love my walks with my music.
Yes.
And I'm just like getting into the groove and I'm just like taking it in, right? And you know, being in Vancouver, like we have great like, you know, clean air, right? We have great nature,
beautiful scenery,
right? I would love to just, you know, drive out if the weather was a little bit warmer. I would love to just drive out and just kind of take a hike on my own and just kind of do that. Hopefully nobody out there continue my social distancing.
So, right, social distancing. This is
or talking
to can use the excuse of social distancing. I'm telling you right now, look, if you don't already, and because I just know I see some faces that you do business online, okay? If you don't already do video on camera on your social network, I don't know what you're doing, because now is the time. Literally now is the time to do that, because we still have a need to socialize. People are now going to turn online for their need, because we're humans. We have this need, whether you're introvert, extrovert, it doesn't matter. You have that need, right? So go out there, go network online, go into Facebook groups, join Facebook groups, which by the way, where Victoria and we call this the Female Asian Hustlers. There is a Facebook group called Asian Hustlers that we're a part of, and you don't have to be Asian.
You don't. They're very welcoming. We are very welcoming.
Very well. And let me tell you, I don't mean to hype them up, but it's pretty hype, because oh my gosh, they have real people who just they're doing their thing and they're profiting. And I'm sure a lot of you have gone through other Facebook groups where they're just entrepreneurs and people who want to be in business, but they're not yet. This Asian Hustler Facebook group, they're freaking killing it.
They're legit. They're legit.
I'm telling you. And there was a meetup in Los Angeles, because they're based out of LA, and it was an in-person meeting months ago. But just seeing people, just interacting with people, I was so, and they're young, or they look young because we're Asian, but but they were just, I mean, you would think that, okay, some people are this, and not to say that there weren't people who weren't just starting and getting there, but most people, they were already having a 6-7 figure business, and it was like nothing. And so I don't know how that happened, and it's a very new Facebook group too.
It's a very personal group. I think people go in when they do their intro. Okay, let's put it this way: you can easily go to, like, you know, influencers or like digital marketing spaces, and people talk about the business, right? That's fine. Yeah. You go into the Asian Hustler Network, it's phenomenal, because the way people do the introductions, they're long because they have a story to tell.
Yeah.
It's either like, hey, my parents immigrated to this country when I was 9. We were very poor, blah, blah, blah. But now look at, and then the background is like a couple of their businesses, their business chains. And there's like, this is what I'm doing, right? This is what we do now. This is all the stuff that we've gone through. People share very, very deeply right off the bat. Yeah. And I think being vulnerable that early just allows people in there to kind of connect with each other. I think that's something that I found very inspiring. Like when I was invited to that group, I was like, God damn, it's not one or two people who are amazing. It's like they all have amazing stories and struggles, and the hustle and the grind, and it's very real. They're very real. And I'm like, Tina, you gotta join this group. Get in here.
and there's already people in there that I knew, which was amazing. So I'm why didn't anybody else invite me? But yeah, it's incredible, because I've certainly been with a lot of online communities, the Facebook group communities, paid and not paid for. This is a free community. And I've never seen, I mean, I've seen similar communities, but they're just killing it just to kill it. I think it's a great place if you are looking for a business mentor, let's say. You might find somebody in your niche specifically. There's over 20,000 people in there. So if you're in a specific niche where it's a brick and mortar coffee shop, you could probably find a brick and mortar coffee shop person who's absolutely freaking killing it in that industry, and have them be your mentor. And they would, I mean, I would always want to offer money, even if they don't take it. I'm the type of person who would want to do that, but go with value first. Don't just try to take. So I'm not suggesting that you do that. Go with value. See how you can add value to that person before you make the ask to have them be your mentor or give you mentorship. But that being said, you can definitely find somebody, and there's everybody in every industry. It's called the Asian Hustle
Network. Asian Hustle Network.
Asian
you don't have to be Asian. We're not actually affiliated in any way. We're just like,
we're just
fans. We're just part of it. We love it.
We are. And I actually got to know, I met the owner who started the Facebook group at the meetup. They had a big meetup, and it was crazy. It was so cool.
They had several hundred people come out to that.
Several hundred people.
And they only grew the page since like a few months. This page is not even half a year old, and they're like 20,000 strong.
It organically grew too, or all organic, nothing paid. That's it. So Asian Hustle Network, we're a part of it. If you want to join, again, we're not affiliated. We're just fans. So
it's just a good place to get inspired, like just to hear other people's story. So people are super supportive and helpful. Like even during times like these, people are like, hey guys, my parents own a mom's and pop's grocery store. No one's coming. We're about to shut down. I feel horrible. Just to get in there and just kind of share your thoughts and share your stories. And like, there's like so much support that come in different ways, right? It could be emotionally. It just could be like, having that empathy, or, maybe straight up, there is something that we can do to support. I guess I feel like being able to grow an online community and take it offline and just kind of have it grow organically that way. It's not, it tells you that people crave this, people want this, right? It took a few people to kind of bring it all together.
The heart of it too.
Yeah.
It reveals the heart of it. So even at this event, there were so many people helping out. It was a volunteer basis. And I asked the guy who owned the Facebook group, I said, look, I would really like to volunteer. So, just let me know next time if you ever do it, just because it's just one of those communities that they're giving you so much that it's almost like this.
Like you feel bad if you don't gotta go. I gotta do something here.
You feel like you have to do something back. So it's just that kind of place. So speaking of communities, again, maybe because it's Asian, because Asian is a community-oriented culture in general. So they have that vibe. I think there is something to that. So if you feel disconnected from your own community, there's an online community and you don't have to be Asian to just join. And they're powerful business-minded people who are actually killing it and successful in their business. It's great.
And you know what? And again, I'm looking forward, right? Like right now, sure, it's safe and there's a lot of stuff that we can do online. We can stream, we can like do all this stuff and still stay connected and still network. Right. But I'm excited for the future. I'm freaking excited because I'm somebody who runs a lot of offline stuff like events and things like that, right? It's such a bummer to see all these stuff get canceled, right? But I'm looking forward. I'm like, okay, well, when this dies down, and it will, it's just a matter of time, everything will go back to normal. right? I'm excited for what's going to come, because all the stuff that actually got canceled, they're all going to come back, and they're going to come back hard. People are going to want to go out. People are going to want to celebrate. It's going to be lit. It's going to be crazy.
Look, let's be real. You have to, the people who canceled, if they're not building an online community, they can't have that lit like offline event. They can't. So they have to double down on the online community. So do you get what I'm saying? You can't just, so my indoor cycling example, who just basically emailed out saying, hey, we're just canceling for the next 2 weeks, and didn't give us anything, like nothing else to replace it or add value or anything. They just straight up canceled it and gave no extra value. You have to think like the acting studio that I'm with, where it's like, no, let's give you more value. Let's make sure that when it is safe to come back to the live event, to the live gathering, to in person, we want to make sure that there's still a community to pull from, to do the live, because it takes people extra effort to commute to somewhere, to go to something, a live gathering or live event, whatever it may be. You have to build a lot of rapport. You have to build that up in an online format in order to draw from that, to take them to in person. So whether it's joining Facebook groups that are already live and popping and happening, and you're building rapport and you're building your network while you can, because right now everybody's online. Nobody has an excuse of not being online. Even people who work in corporate companies, I know a lot of people who they're mandated their employees to work from home, even though they're not naturally a home-based company. And so everybody's online, and everybody's checking Facebook group, everybody's checking their Instagram now. So if you're not on there right now, and you're not building up your network, and you're not building up some sort of community or a part of a big community and contributing and adding value to them, then where are you going to be 6 months from now? You have to think about the strategy of that, the social strategy of that, in terms of your business, in terms of even if you're an employee and you're trying to build something. That's where you got to be. That's where it's at.
I like what Vipassana is saying. Would it be cool to do VR with meetups? Yeah, we can actually virtual hug each other.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Yeah, when that becomes more mainstream, it would be insane. I know there's VR yoga sessions happening, and VR everything. Community oriented. Yes, please. Over here where I am from. Yep. Great tips. This really motivated me to keep showing up on video more on my social channels and use LinkedIn more. Yes, LinkedIn is so popping right now, Victoria, and you know it. And I see a lot of your Instagram beautiful pictures and all of that. I was talking to my friend Shayla, who's a fitness influencer on Instagram. She has this large following, but she's so adamant about, okay, but I just want to post pictures. I just want to post pictures. And I was really harping on her to post videos, because you're going to build more rapport. People are going to get to know you a lot more, and you'll build that trust, know, and like, the marketing cycle that makes the customers and clients want to come to you a lot faster. It has a 4 times conversion rate if you do video. And she started to do video of her, and she's like, okay, fine, I'll do I'll do like a lunge on video, even though in her head she thinks it's really dumb. She's like, but who wants to see that, right? And then she starts doing it, and her engagement just like shot off the roof, because of course the video allows that to happen, especially if you already have a following of some sort. Video is everything, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you live, YouTube, of course. So
well, right now, if you don't have at least something, you're not considered being in existence. Like if you're not if you don't have any account at all on social, which is really tough, because I'm a little older than Tina, and a lot of people in my generation, they don't necessarily embrace social media platforms the same way.
Right.
It's more about privacy. It's more about security. Like those concerns take precedence over engagement and networking. And I think there has to be a balance point, right?
Yeah. So for example, I don't post everything online. People are so surprised that I was doing aerial arts, and they're like, oh, I didn't know you did that. Well, yes, of course, because
I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah, I know.
What the heck?
I don't publicize and I don't tell everybody everything.
So no one should feel bad because even I didn't know.
But you know what I mean? Even Gary Vee is very known for protecting his family life. You don't see his wife, you don't see his kids online. You just see him, you see his business, and he does that on purpose. So it doesn't mean you can't, whatever you want private, you can keep private. It drives me mad when somebody is on Instagram and it's set to private. Victoria. Aren't you set to private?
Just making my point.
It drives me mad. Okay, go in the chat and say, Victoria, you need to make that public, because it drives me insane. You cannot do that. You have to have a presence. Okay, maybe if you want to do an Instagram private whatever, okay, sure, then don't put your face on your profile picture. All right, like, fine.
Wow,
fine, get it.
Someone's going savage mode all of a sudden.
No, but it's true. It's true. And employers, they want to see that. Sure, okay, but you have to be public somewhere, whether it's on LinkedIn. I know, Vikas, you just asked what does LinkedIn, what makes it stand out from other social media platforms. If you don't already know, LinkedIn right now is, and I know Gary Vee said this too, but it's in the early stages of when Facebook was just popping in. But it could go to another direction. It could all of a sudden not be popping anymore. But the trend right now is that because they changed their algorithm, as well as they changed a lot of their layout to mimic Facebook, they did that on purpose. So it could be more of a social platform versus what it was before, which is more of an employment platform where you have your resume. Now it's a social platform. So what that means is people are living on there. And because people aren't utilizing it, it's not utilized as much as the Facebook and the Instagram, and LinkedIn ads are actually expensive. So but you don't even need that, because you can grow organically on LinkedIn because the competition is very low right now.
Yes. Does it mean that there's going to be LinkedIn dating as well? Which is
maybe that would make more sense, because then you can link up with people who's in your industry if you want to date people in your industry. Anyway, that's a whole nother story, Victoria. Let's not put your own personal business into this. Yeah, so Facebook has a dating section, if you don't already know.
If we're going to talk about algorithm, wouldn't Facebook just kill it with algorithm, actually, with dating? Okay, so I don't know about other people, right? But I've had my Facebook account for 15 years. How long has Facebook been around?
You're dating yourself.
I am, no problem. But think about all the information they have on you. If they were going to use algorithm and match, you with let's just say his career. Let's just say his career, because actually, if you look on Facebook, you can do everything now. You can sell things, you can buy things, you can date, you can get a job now. There's a job board. I don't know if you guys know, right? Yeah. There's so many things you can do on there, and you think about the information they've had on you. So the longer you've had your account, the more information you've shared on their platform, right? They can do more than you think. They just haven't offered the services for you, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if they want to match people up, if they want to, for whatever reasons, right? Even jobs and all that, think about how powerful it actually could be, right? And it's all centralized on one single platform, which is also now, you think about security now, right? Does that make some people nervous? Yeah, I'm sure it does. But you trade, see, in China, you trade privacy with convenience. In China, they've eliminated the wallet. So there's no credit card. They've never had credit cards. They don't even use cash. They have an app called WeChat. You get on, you do all your transactions on there. You can buy things, you can sell things. It's all there.
They don't have cash?
But they don't use cash anymore, because that's a good thing, because it eliminates counterfeit completely. Even the street vendor on the street selling, I don't know, snacks on the street, selling ice cream or not, that vendor would take WeChat payment or Alipay or whatever it is, right? But that's the whole country have adopted that. But they give up privacy. They have to link up their bank accounts. They have to prove who they are, identity, because they still have to have security, like fraudulent activity prevention and things like that in place. So you give up so much of your privacy, so much of who you are. You literally gave them you're one step closer to giving them your DNA, essentially, right? But you trade all of that for convenience, because I can go into a store in China and just buy all my groceries and like just go beep and then pay for it all. And it's like within 5 seconds, right? You can't do that outside of China,
and so and let's be real right now in terms of marketing. Right now, I know Facebook, we can hyper target people, but for example, in your copywriting, you're not allowed to reveal that you're hyper targeting them. So you can't say, hey, hey, I know that I don't know, like you're a 65-year-old, like being a senior and a male who also have erectile dysfunction. Here's a great product for you. You can't use that kind of specific copywriting because of the privacy concern, even though they technically can directly market you as such, but you just can't put it in your copywriting. So the fact is they already have that information on you already. It's just that they're trying to cloak it and make it seem like they don't, but they do, because their Facebook's linked with Google, with it's all linked up. So they already do have that information. It's just that it's not being revealed purposefully. It's not being revealed upon you, but they are hyper targeting you, right?
You know what? Let's talk a little bit about what we think will happen when things actually go back to normal. So, anything from, okay, when will the stores have toilet paper again? When will we be fully comfortable going out again? Here's another thing too, right? There's a stigma with wearing a mask out in public. I know there's a lot of, racial discrimination. There are countries that where wearing a mask out in public, it's a complete norm, right? It's been that way for decades. So it's
like
not
in Asia.
Yeah, like in Asia, right? In most Asian places, they go out and wear, and it's for different reasons. Some people, it's for pollution, right? Because it's more polluted out in Asia, right? Or they just really want to not spread. Maybe they have a cough coming on, they might have sneeze coming on. And even if they're not sick, you think about how congested, like the tight spaces that you have to get to in Asia, like being stuck in, like being jammed into a packed subway or packed elevator. I would appreciate it if everybody in there wore a mask, regardless if they were sick or not, or if I'm sick or not. Just that you're basically breathing on each other all the time, because there's so little personal space, right, in those countries. But then you go to, like, let's say out here in Canada, am I going to get targeted if I wear a mask if I go out? But I'm really doing it for the sake of protection for other people. Because if I were to go out right now, how do I know if I'm infected? Right? How do I know if I'm going to spread, or, maybe the next person, the next senior who's going to sit at the table that I sit at this coffee shop, it's going to, like, I don't know, pick up some of this.
So the pandemic is over and we're all good now. What happens then?
I think number one is people will want to fly. They are desperate. They're desperate to catch up on their vacation that they miss. They're desperate to see their loved ones for whatever personal reasons. They just want to, like, they're just itching. Like, people just want to do what they can't do. That's also human nature, right? It's like, hey, you know what? You actually can't fly next month. It's like, oh, but I really, really want to all of a sudden, right? And that's just human,
So then what does that mean in terms of what we can do to capitalize on that?
Capitalize on flying? Well, I think definitely
not necessarily flying, just like
taking things offline, right? It's like, okay, you know what? Now people feel safe. Now people are actually, I think there's going to be a jump where, like, people feel like they can kind of go out again, right? People are actually taking more measures to actively seek out meeting up with people, having those conversations. Before it's like, hey, let's have coffee. I'm kind of busy. You push it up, you push it back. They don't happen. But now right? With all the social distancing, with like you're being told that you can't even go to work and all that. People who crave being around other people, they're going to be dying to come out. People are going to be making plans. People are going to be coming out. Like people are excited to have their jobs again, especially in the service industry, right? Where it's been rough, like the past couple months.
So then it goes back to, you got to build your network up right now. So by the time that happens and that tipping point happens, you have people that you can say, hey, look, we've been talking online, this and that. And you can say, like, the C virus is done, it's not done, but it seems calm right now. Would you like to get a cup of coffee? You can make that statement, but you can't make that statement. It's easier to get in touch with people online than it is to straight up ask, let's go grab a cup of coffee. I've had so many people ask me straight up, let's go grab a cup of coffee. And I say no every time, because, and I'm talking about just random people reaching out to me, because I have no reason. It's such an investment of time and my energy and commuting and in going to, why would I do that for you? I have no reason. You're not giving me any value, and I don't care. I only do that for my close friends. But if you've spoken to me, and I've done this with people, for example, this YouTuber that I got in contact with, I started to talk to them online. We had a back and forth, this and that. Eventually, I was able to ask, like, hey, would you like to go grab lunch together? And they said yes. But they probably wouldn't have said yes if my first email was, hey, let's go grab lunch together. And that's what most people do. They don't build that rapport. But now that we're forced into this environment where people are forced indoors, people are checking their email inbox a lot more. They're checking their Instagram DMs a lot more. They're checking their LinkedIn messages a lot more, because they can't actually go out. They can't go forth, right? And so because of that, you want to capitalize on that and build those relationships right now. So by the time it's time to break out and meet people in person, because in person, there's something different about that. You build more rapport then. If you want to potentially do business with somebody or have a joint venture with somebody, whatever it may be, you want to build it up now. And if at all possible, start with the texting. If you want to talk about tangible, start with a, hey, how are you doing? I would send them a video, because people are craving that, or even an audio. I know some people, they're smart. I know what they're doing. They send me an audio clip of a voice note instead of just texting me. And then so I'll forcefully, number one, I'm curious. Number two, I get to know their voice. It sounds familiar. So by the time we get on a video call, being that the next step, almost like dating, you have step one, step two, you got to go little by little. And then you get on a video call, your voice is already familiar. And now I have to get familiar with your face and your body language and all of that, right? And so now by the time you build so much rapport, by the time you're able to go out with them in person, it almost feels like you're just meeting your friend that you haven't seen in so long, even though it's the first time you're actually meeting in person. So I really encourage people to build that network up. Start with the text, go to voice note, go into videos, and get in people's DMs, DM it up on LinkedIn, through emails, because people are actually checking it a lot more now than ever. So I highly suggest that, so you can just build up your social network, especially if you're in business. Whoever it is that you want to partner up with, you strategize that now, think about that, reach out to those people and start building that conversation and capitalize on what is actually happening right now while it's still happening. So by the time we're released, you can make deals by the time 6 months from now.
Yeah, agreed, because a lot of things are still not canceled. Conversations are not canceled.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Love is not canceled. It certainly isn't. So I do want to wrap this up. Any last words on that, Vic?
Yeah, I would just say, don't let the fear take over you. And you know what? I would say that, no matter where you go nowadays, it's all over the news. I would just say, get the right information from the right sources.
Yeah.
Right. So that would help you make better decisions, but don't over immerse in all the speculation of, what it is. Really do think more about yourself your business, your self-care. Do you think beyond 3 to 6 months right now? Definitely think about the rest of the year as well, like the entire 2020.
Yeah.
I think it's a good time. It really forces you to make plans and forces you to think about what kind of action steps you can actually take in times like these.
Right. Yeah. So just to quickly recap, we're thinking about now, we're thinking about adapting our business, add extra value, think about 3 to 6 months from now, how liquid we can be. And if you're not already liquid, to do whatever it is that you need to do in order to become liquid, just to survive this time period, whether it's selling stuff or taking out a credit line just in case, whatever that may be for you. And then thinking about your future, analyze your finances currently, what can you cut out, things of that nature, and adding value. And then building up your social network, because right now people are indoors, again, video, whatever it may be, go into Facebook groups and connect with people. Now's the time, because people are more online now more than ever. And so that's it, folks. Thank you so much for being on the live. Maybe we'll do this next time, our female hustling conversation. We will see you next time if we do it next time. See you soon.